Hi guys, it's Katie Beth here, and today we're going to be doing some basic photo edits on this picture right here. This is a picture of my niece, and the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to smooth out skin and fix a couple of different skin discolorations and blemishes. We're going to use the free select tool and select around the edge. Not too close to the edge, but like not right in the middle of it either. You can see right here how I'm going from, fairly close to the edge, but not necessarily as close as we were going to do if we were doing, say, a color change. Now that you have the whole area selected, you're going to copy and paste it, and it's going to appear as a new layer over here, and you're going to use this blank page icon to make it into a solid layer. And then we're going to click this little eyeball to hide the first one, so all we see is this layer that we're working with. Now the next thing we're going to need to do before we can actually do any of the color changes is we're going to have to remove things that we want to be the same. Not color changes, skin tone correction, my bad. And so we're going to free select around these areas that we're not going to want to change, such as the eyes and the eyebrows. Remember, whenever you're free selecting, you can always hit the shift key to add stuff to your free select. So we're just going to select around here. You can also select the whole eye here and then control select to remove the sections that you're actually going to want to keep, like that. It's just a matter of which way you want to do it. So we're going to select around both of the eyes and the eyebrows and the mouth. You don't want to get too close to the edge of this mouth because we're going to need a little bit of room here. But as you can see right here, I've come to a blemish, so I'm going to get a little bit closer right there than what I would normally do. Select around the nose. Get pretty far away from the nose lines. It's better to select too much than not enough on this. The one last little thing I'm going to select is, as you can see right here, there's a little laugh line, and that's definitely something that we want to keep. But we can go pretty close to that. It's just going to create an extra shadow. And then select around the general area of the neckline. Just right where that darkest shadow is. And then we're going to delete all that out. And if this ever happens to you, then you can just go back, which you can do with Control Z, or you can do Edit, Undo, Free Select, until you get to the point where what you selected is back. Because sometimes whenever you hit the Shift or Control to add areas or take them out, it doesn't always work. And that will just take you back to the last few things that you did. As you can see, it decided to remove this area that I had already done with the neck and the laugh line, so I'm going to go ahead and redo that. And then just hit the delete button to remove them. And then to get the little lines to go away, you hit Control Shift A or select None, whichever one you would rather do. As you can see here, I've now got a blank canvas to start working with. Now we have several little blemishes here that we need to fix, and the one we're going to use to fix that is the clone tool. It's the one over here. It looks like a little ink pad. You're going to zoom in, and your size needs to be fairly small. Probably around like a 20 or a 30. You're going to control click, and this is right here is the blemish that we're going to fix. So you're going to control click a spot that's close to it and then just cover that blemish up. What it's doing is it's cloning each individual little pixel that's next to it in order to correctly hide it without people being able to actually see that it's been done. Okay, now that all of our major blemishes are done, the next thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to select all of the skin area. Now the best way to do that is to do a select by color, which is this little icon up here, or a Shift O. And then select this transparent part, that's the little checkerboard, and then invert it, which is up here in your select tool or hotkey of Control I. Now we're going to use the paintbrush tool, and if you go anywhere on this picture and click your Control key while on the paintbrush, it will let you select colors. And as you can see, the colors will appear right over here in this little box. So I'm just going to select randomly around here until I find a shade that I like. Not too much red, not too much brown, just the right shade. And we're going to go into a paintbrush with a decent size since we're working with a big area, and opacity somewhere between 40 and 50. And we're just going to paint over all of this continuously. Now please note that whenever you're using the opacity function, if you lift up the mouse and then click again, I'll show you, it's going to add more and it looks a little odd, so try not to do that. Next thing we're going to do is add colors, and we need some blush colors for the cheeks. So the best way to find the correct blush color for the cheek is to click on this little box and it'll bring this up, and then just go almost directly up. And you can pale it out a little bit if you want, but when you go up, it's going to be a higher shade of red, and so therefore you're going to have a higher chance of it matching the skin color you've chosen. Now you really need to really light opacity for this, around a 15 or so. And then you're just going to touch in this cheek area. It will show a little bit of lines, but that's okay because we're going to fix it. Now you're going to select none, and as you can see, this part is done. But we still have one other part, because whenever you put this other layer back on here, the lines are very obvious. So what we're going to do to fix that is we're going to do something called a blur. And we're going to go into filters, blur, and we're going to use something called a Gaussian blur. Now this Gaussian blur is going to allow us to blur out these edges, as you can see here in the preview. Now my usual settings are on 20, but depending on the image, you may have to adjust that slightly. So I'm going to go ahead and blur it out as to 20, and then reveal the other image and check that. That will work. See, these edges right here along these lines are still a little harsh, but it will be okay because we're going to fix that in a minute. Okay, the next thing we need to do before we can do any more work is we're going to have to create a new layer using both of the current layers. And the way you do that is you go up to Layer, New from Visible, and then this is our visible layer. And we can go ahead and delete these other layers by clicking on them and hitting this little trash can button, so that the only thing that's left is the visible. If you want to rename your layer, you can right click it, or you should be able to soft click it, which is, my soft clicking is not working right now. So we're just going to leave it named visible. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what it's named. Now what we're going to need is we're going to need the smudge tool right here. And a pretty small size because we're going to be working in a lot of detail. And we're going to take the smudge tool and basically just go around these edges right here and smudge them out. And see, since we combined the two layers using the New from Visible option, it's smudging both layers at the same time and combining both of the images. Now you could probably tell from this image that I did lighten her skin tone by quite a bit. because she had a lot of redness in her cheeks and some other problems like acne and blemishes that we needed to cover up. If you do not lighten the skin as much as I did, then you won't need to do as many of these edgings. If you don't lighten the skin as much as I did and you do a good quality blur, then you may not even have to lighten it to fix the edges at all. Okay, now as you can see, the edges around this picture are a little bit smoother now. I mean, there's no visible line between the two layers, except for here around the nose and here around this laugh line and around the lips. So obviously we are going to need to fix that to make it look a little bit more realistic. So for this particular part, you're going to have a very, very, very small paintbrush and a lower opacity, around 50 to 60. And you're just going to quickly bring, in gentle strokes, quickly bring the little paintbrush tool, or smudge tool in this case, around the edges, following the lines that are there. If you think you've got it, zoom out. No. So another option, if your lines are not working, is you can go into your paintbrush, select a color that is similar to the one that is on the skin, and highlight those lines by going over them with a very low opacity, around a 10 to a 15. And that will reduce the look of the lines. If you're still not getting a good result, as you can see, my lines are still showing up very strongly. You can do a minor Gaussian blur. Select the area, go back into filters. You can actually re-show Gaussian blur, but we're not going to want anywhere near a 20. Just maybe around like a 5 or a 6. And as you can see, that helped tremendously. You can go back into that smudge tool and draw that darker line right there that I'm working on here. Draw the darker line up toward the top of the bridge. And as you can see, that's going to give it a lot more of a natural look. Okay, the next area we're going to have to work around is around the lips and the lips themselves. Now, lips can be done actually pretty easily. You don't even need to select anything as long as you're careful. Really, all they need is the smudge tool because you don't want too much blending in the lips. Work on that highlight that you're going to have on the lips to give it a more natural look. And as you can see right there, that you've gotten a lot more of a natural look there. And that's pretty much all of this tutorial. In this particular picture, my model is wearing braces, so I will be covering teeth whitening and teeth straightening in a different video. So I hope you liked it, and I'll see you next time.